Thank you for joining us. This is the Aaron Broussos podcast. And guess what? I'm Aaron Broussos. Look, this is a very special episode of the Aaron Broussos podcast because I'm going to give you the exact way to get the answer to anything you want in your life, even if it's unknown by anyone on the earth. I will tell you exactly how to get anything you want, the answer to anything you want. And this is how I was able to heal myself of an incurable disease back in 2018. But there's a couple of things that I need to talk to you about. Just to set up. When I say anything you want, it has to be quite genuine, authentic, or realistic, relevant. You know what I mean? I wanted to heal myself, and then I wanted to find the answers to other things that weren't so selfish or do you know what I mean? There was a bit of purity about the motivation or the and also I need to say to you, if you're going to stick around and find out how to get the answer to something, anything at all, I will do another podcast one day about how to get exactly anything you want. But this is like to try and find the answer to something. If you're researching a certain topic, and you know, when I was sick, I first did this, right? I found a mechanism in the ether where it's a different way of researching and accumulating and stuff. It's a meld or a combination or I guess an inclusive crossover between, depending on what industry you're looking at, but I was looking at science, medicine, homeopathic, naturopathic, energy, kinesiology. You know what I mean? I'm talking about a mixture of mindfulness, psychology. It's like getting the best of both worlds, or the best of all worlds, when it comes to anything involved with you or the answer that you're perceiving to. So I wanted to find. Look, initially, I wanted to reduce my medication, and this is what sparked everything. I saw my doctor, and he said, "Look, they advise that you've been taking this so long. This is Pfizer, which is Zoloft, that you have to take it for the rest of your life." And I was like, "No one told me about this when I started taking this." And I actually asked for a letter to say that I have a diagnosed anxiety condition or disorder. I think they were called anxiety disorders back then. Now they're chronic anxiety, or I don't think that's the way the government word them or something, or doctors or whatever. So I'm out there getting this letter for some reason, when he told me I have to take this drug for the rest of my life, in that meeting with that doctor, I then asked for a letter, because I knew at that moment that little spark, that little something happened when he said to me, you have to and I got so angry, but within that little spark of a second, I asked for a letter, because I was walking out of the doctor's surgery with a letter saying I have diagnosed some conditions, and that I was going to beat them. I knew that from the moment that I walked out. I was pumped. Now, you might say, okay, Aaron, you're leaving a doctor's surgery you've got a letter, you're a bit angry, and you're leaving with it full of hot air, and you're going home to try and cure a condition which affects over 400 million people around the world. They're medicated for it, and all the greatest medical and science minds and people that have been working in this field for many years can't help. I tried everything when I was in that system, and I mean everything, and some more. So you think, yeah, sure, mate, the hot air will deflate eventually, and you will fail, right? So the only difference, well, there was no difference really. I left with the letter. I got home, and I started, and this was in April. And so in April, I had nothing else to do but to get up. And, I didn't sleep well anyway. So it was very normal for me in multiple periods in my year or time in life, and quite consistently for me to go 6 weeks where, I'm up for 19 hours a day, average. And so I've gone back. I'm up against it, right? Up against it, every single thing. The only thing that I got going for me is when I was a teenager, I met Mark Green, the numbers science guy from Harvard. And I'd been studying Pythagorean numerology and ancient history and natural medicines and all sorts of obscure, not mainstream things for a long time. All my life, I've always had those saved that I have two very different simultaneous life experiences going on at one time. I've got the one where I remember when I was 10 years old, and I've gone, we must be here on the planet to work out why we're here. And I had a lot of really weird experiences when I was younger, and too many of them to talk about here. Astral traveling, like it was so real. And I lived in a place called Somerville in the country in Victoria. My house was like the last one tacked on to the end of this little housing estate, and then it was country. It was paddocks and cows and dams and prickleberry, what do you call them? Blueberry bushes, blackberry bushes and stuff. And, so there's a lot of, from an early age, there's this quest to, find out what we're here, why we're here. And I never really paid attention or gave any seriousness to school. It was more of a social thing. I didn't really do high school, failed year 7, and they said, look, we can't really keep you down. And soon found myself into the workforce, and eventually found cooking. And it was something that I could learn on the job and progress, and I did. I've had dozens and dozens of chefing jobs, from cafes to restaurants to pubs to catering to events to sporting grounds to jockey clubs to international convention centres. There's nothing I haven't really ticked the box in there, which is pretty exemplary in itself. But at heart, at school, I only really excelled and got A pluses in 2 things: home economics, cooking, and mathematics. Mathematics, I'd won I'd win the state national Westpac mathematics competitions, fail everything else at school. And so there's always been a background in either the numerology, the occult, and it wasn't even just a spiritual woo into it. I genuinely wanted to get to the inner workings of the universe, and more importantly, if I sat down with and I'm just using this as an excuse, I'm not saying this is a focus or a big part of my life, but I'm saying if I sat down with a tarot card reader, I would want to know how they're doing it, what field they're tapping into, the mechanics behind it, because it all has to be physics, right? It might be quantum physics, it might be body, mind, and soul. There's this trilogy, there's this whole universe of patterns and geometry, and it's not a mistake. It's all beautifully patterned and everything. So we're part of something a little bit more intelligent and divine, and than maybe your previously past thought, or even wanting to be collective. So I've got that background. I have had a pretty shitty life. It had some traumas and other things that obviously. But I think the cooking got me out of my bogan sort of low consciousness, real sort of low vibe sort of a lifestyle, where I was a bit of a jock and played junior football for hundreds of games of football, and cooking got me into a different space. When I was younger, I was a martial arts, boxing. I was into everything, and so I'm up against it. I've got no resources. I haven't got $1 trillion in unlimited funds like the world has got to fix this problem. Haven't got the the manpower, woman power, person power, and so I do research, and there's science and medical, and you talk to doctors, you can get access to certain peer reviewed and other resources where you can get these papers from, and there's multiple in different places all around the world. and even from lawyers and all sorts of stuff. I'm pretty much I was pretty impressed with my private investigation skills here on Earth. And then when you run out of resources and places where you're having some wins or starting to put things together, because you've got to find things first, then you've got to test them, measure them, and then you can put them as part of the puzzle. But I'm basically where things started, obviously getting where I got stuck is the same place where probably all the doctors and everyone, doctors and everyone are going to school, and that's all they learn. I've known many a thing to come along that are part of the human system that doctors don't even know about because they're not taught it at school. Do you know what I mean? You don't know what you don't know. And there's a whole other 14, 15 stories to that. But so basically I have to start looking at, well, I don't have to start looking at it. I've always been fascinated since I met Mark, all those years ago, about ancient history as well, and different places and times in history. And obviously when you're researching, you got to go back through all the ages, and you got to, look at the environments, what they're washing in, what they were eating, what they're exposed to. You've got to really try and go through time and see where did anxiety come in. I've done other things. When did cystic fibrosis come in there? Heart disease, all these things that, even some mutated diseases as well. And so you start getting a very broad picture about everything. But then when you run out of the ideas here now, a doctor, a scientist, a professor who are working on a specific thing, they've been taught in this school, which is the only tools that they have at their disposal to be able to find this. And the only thing is the one industry which is medicine, determined and influenced and built and developed and adjusted and oscillated and got to the point where it is today. But they still cannot get out of that physical 3D linear. As far as we've come, as far as technology, the Industrial Revolution, we're still killing each other. It's pretty fucking bad, considering all the resources and the way we could all live like kings and queens here with the resources. But we've got to have gotten these people. They know, like the general consensus on Earth is that 90% of us have a soul. If we're actually asked, we just don't know how it works. And that mental aspect, but all those three, what I've come to learn is all those three parts are just as important as each other. There's an equal importance or connectedness or oneness about these three parts of ourselves that give us the highest expression or the optimal workings of everything, or everything going on all at the same time. And the medical and science worlds, even the greatest minds, and your Stephen Hawking, who I grew up absolutely adoring. I had a chemistry set since I was a little kid, and that was one of my other, very long passions and loves. But, Stephen, all he had to do was add a dash of spirituality and quantum physics to his work to complete it, or to complete at least a loop. and understanding that it's in a cycle, the yin and the yang, the push-pull, and how we can then he would be able to piece the puzzles together of how everything works and how we work, the system we belong to, and the best way to, work within that system. So I have to start going down different roads, whether it be, ancient Mayan, Machu Picchu, different ancient tribes, but it's funny how different languages, different geographic locations, same idea, same energy, same cycles, same, and so I had to learn, about the field, what happens to us when we die, how does energy work, is the consciousness energy, is it measurable, can it be group energy, can it be, real physics, natural science sort of stuff, getting down to the nitty gritty, and then asking those practical application questions about spirituality. A tarot reader, someone who is a medium, or hears things, and I'm like, well, so I had to go through the education system off Earth to fulfill my destiny of healing myself by going down that through and going, all right, well, when you hear things from a dead person, it's not a two-way conversation, is it? To a medium or whatever, and they're like, no, I feel or see or sense, and I'm like, okay, so what are we dealing with here? Because on this other thing, the Sanskrit, karmic, the reincarnation story, or what they're telling, which then marries up with all parts of ancient history and all through different times, is about this reincarnation, and there's processes and transitions in and transitions out, and it's very hard. Anything to do with the soul and outside of the physical 3D realm is very hard to explain in 3D words and understand in bits and pieces, but we do try, and that's what metaphors are. And I guess in this case you could have a metaphor and say, look, when you die corporally, your body, your energy goes out and joins the rest of the energy, and then you might, as your own specific core frequency within that greater energy, you might then be caught in a loop of reincarnation, and to get the greatest spiritual bang for buck, you will be reincarnated down into the same lines, because the bias here is love. It's the highest, greatest expression, and unconditional love's the greatest. So to be able to get that feeling when you look in your great-grandson or grandson's face, to know that this is something that comes through the same lineage, is a way of getting. And there's multiple ways that this living organism gets spiritual bang for its buck, but that's just one way. So I had to go down the path and work out a way of learning what's out there, what can I communicate with, is it going to help me, what do mediums talk to, what do tarot readers, what are we all tapping into here, and how does it all work? That's where I know that I could maybe get some answers to the questions that I can't get here on Earth about the first part of the research that you do when you are trying to fix anything or you're trying to heal anything at all, is you need to work out what's causing it. That is the most surest way to ever fix a problem, right? Find out what's causing it. It sounds really simple, doesn't it? What's causing my anxiety? What's causing cancer? Don't stop. Don't do anything else until you research what is causing it. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you'll have a whole list of causes, all with a different toxicity level of how much they've contributed to this disease, doing this part or that part, or collectively it's all happening together. And so then you go out and you have to test it. And so then you test it and it works. You do the process of elimination or thing. So there's different ways to get answers to things that you can't get here on Earth. Now, the way that you get them, because this is what I said I was going to share with you, right? The way that you get them is the same way that you can get answers from the universe, but it's never going to be a two-way conversation. Okay? It comes in the way of signs, synchronicities, downloads, intuitive downloads, inspired thought. And so basically, I guess the best way for me to explain it to you is to explain what happened when I went home with the letter from the doctor. So I go home with this letter from the doctor going, right, this is my proof that I've got a condition. Amazing how I had this letter. Right, asked for that letter. It fucking still boggles my brain today. 8 years later. So I take the letter home and I go, all right, what is causing my chronic anxiety? I've had it for 10 years. It's bad, panic attacks, presenting in the emergency sometimes 15 times a month. It mimics all these other things from, heart attack to indigestion to virus, just mimics all sorts of really bad stuff. The panic attacks, to explain it, a panic attack comes on of dread, and you are trying to do things to stop it. Drink water. No. Drink beer. No. Drink coffee. No. Drink this. Do this. Run. Move. Stay. Jump on. And you're trying to you can't get rid of it. And it's such an awful feeling to be with, and to be sitting in that pain. And you're trying to get through the next couple of seconds. And I say this to people because I'm like, you imagine thinking you are just about to die. You don't give a fuck about anything anyone's saying to you. It's irrelevant. It's like, blah, 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 whatever, mate. Don't give a fuck. I'm trying to get through these fucking next 10 seconds, get through this minute, get through this 5 minutes, get through this half an hour, fucking try and get some relief. A lot of people that have ADHD, chronic anxiety, anxiety disorders, trauma, will try and self-medicate through alcohol, drugs, prescription drugs, Valium severely, they'll be trying to get, and what happens is you'll spend all this time trying to bring yourself down or get rid of this feeling, and then you do, and then you go to sleep, and then boom, you're back up a few hours, and you got to go through the whole process again. And then after you've been doing that for 10 years, you're like, oh man, I don't think I can keep doing this. This is no way to live. And there's no way out. And there's no, clammy hands and fucking beating in your ear and your head. And, I used to get chest pains. They were just real distinct chest pains. If I used to have one coffee a day, in the morning at 9 o'clock, and one day I didn't have a coffee, by 12 midday, I'm keeled over with the most excruciating chest pains. And this is all part of the chronic anxiety. This is like one of my special little symptoms. And sometimes I couldn't get rid of this chest pain, no matter what I do. Sometimes I'd have to fucking scull 6 beers. Sometimes I'd have to smoke, 4 cones. Take Valium, just to try and get this. It was like, anxiety is part of life, right? It's it's part of your, could even be part of your, some form of, not security, but, mechanism for protection and stuff. But to actually have it wound on and then something happen that's so painful and so excruciating you can't get rid of it, and you go through it for that long, was just ridiculous. And then to up the medicine, 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams. Oh, no, go back. Oh, yeah, no, I'm starting to feel shit. Oh, 40 milligrams. And it's just, it's not a, I feel for the people that are out there going through it now, because I got to a point where I didn't want to be here anymore. This is what sparked everything. This is why I went to the doctor going, mate, I've got to do something, because I can't do this. I can't go on, keep doing this. And there's possible hundreds of millions of people out there like me doing that today. Yet for the last 8 years, I've pleaded with prime ministers, with health ministers, state psychiatrists, mental health institutions, organisations, international organisations, relentless correspondences with hundreds of people, and no one is interested in helping the people that are sick. So I'm at a point now where I'm like, just help the sick people, just go straight to them. It's natural. It's a naturally aligning thing. There's no risk, there's nothing that could go wrong. The only thing that could go wrong is what you could make out of mentally fear-based indoctrinations from the mainstream, that's put some form of fear or something into you. Yes, I was fearful when I started it myself, but I went and told my doctor. I said, it's all natural, blah, blah, blah. And he said, mate, can't hurt, just send me your blood pressure thing, go to the chemist every morning and text it to me. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, the worst thing about this whole thing, the most uncomfortable thing, was that I had to give up smoking marijuana, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, Valium. I was still taking my medication. I wasn't going to stop doing that. I just, all of those other things that I was addicted to. Basically, I mean, I knew that from my research that the load, like the CBD, helps with addiction, and that's sort of mainly the main reason. It was initially the main reason for getting the CBD on board was to help with all my addictions. So I wasn't sitting there fucking strung out going and climbing the walls on the first night. And lo and behold, it worked. So big savior. But that was my biggest problem. That was my biggest stress. That was my biggest thing. It wasn't about that anything natural, so soft and gentle like this could ever hurt you medically is completely and utterly medically and scientifically impossible. The risk is zero. The risk is zero until you mentally start ramping it up. I've had people before that have mentally talked themselves out of it because I could hear myself in them going through, I've been smoking for 30 years and now you tell me I'm just going to fucking give up like that. People, more people the higher percentages of people that come to this program don't do it, don't start it in the first place. People don't even get courage up, start it and then go, oh, fuck it, and have a cigarette 2 days later, or fuck it, get on the piss. People are so addicted they can't even start it. They can't even go a couple of days and then, break or fold or whatever. They don't even want to go through the first day of uncomfortability. And that is a societal community problem, part of our culture. Everything within our culture, we go to a doctor to get some tests run from someone else that is going to tell us what's going on inside of us. There's some things that I'm not saying everything, and I'm not saying it's all fucking wrong, or, I'm saying it's not finished. It's not complete. It doesn't match what we are. We're holistic beings. It's a thing. So I get up on the first day and I go out into my back garden and I start ranting. And I know that I can think things and it's a frequency, but I know that if I say them out loud, it's a double frequency because the whole universe can hear, and it's like one big living big organism. I used to think that there was a God and this thing. I now know that I am God, or an expression of, I am part of God. God is the field, and I am an expression of God. So essentially we all are God. And so through testing different ways of communicating with spirits, I found a way to get answers and then test them. So I was told that there was 3 guides out there, and everyone's got these 3 amazing guides, and 3s are obviously quite universal through the patterning of everything in life. And so past loved ones, and I'm like, well, they've passed over. They've transitioned out. They've gone back to the soul soup. They've gone to the wind of birth, waiting in a hotel to come back down here, and they reincarnate back down here. So how are they supporting me and someone who's very, very, very knowledgeable in the soul space, like one of the world leading experts and stuff, whether it be through academia or not, through all the people and thousands of things that I did and talked to and read and watched and whatever. We can't understand the soul stuff with a 3D linear physical mind. It is crazy. Like, if those 3 guides that are assigned to me are people as well that are walking around on the earth. You're a guide for 3 other people around Earth now. 2 of them might be here on Earth and one not, but might be back on the Soul Soup. There's only 2 places you can be, here and there. And so I start working out how this all works, who I could get information, who I could talk. And there's a transmission, right? There's a field with a transmission. And it's not that you have to get access. It's always there. It's always broadcasting. Your guides are broadcasting all the time. I can listen in. I can tap in. And so I'm just getting into these amazing things. I'm like, wow, if this is unbelievable, if this is true, and I'm like, well, let's go. Let's go. What's causing my anxiety? Now, I get up, and you can't sit down and wait for an answer, right? There's no opportunity of anything energetically to come to you, and I'll just explain it to you. So I've asked the question, what's causing my anxiety? I don't want to know anything else. I don't want to talk about anything else. That's all my focus is every minute of every day until I get to a position, and I know about energy and focus and giving my attention to what it does. And so I'm doing this for a reason in a certain way, and I'm going, right, I'm not going to stop and go to the next stage until I work out what is causing my anxiety. I don't want to know nothing. And I was so razor sharp, like if something came up and I was thinking about, maybe you could do this or, breath work. I'm like, no, fucking snap it off, bro. Do not even contemplate thinking about anything but finding out what's causing your chronic anxiety. Where did it go? You've got drug use, you've got trauma, you've got exposure, you've got chemicals, you've got to go through everything in your life, and then you've got to look at wear and tear, where it's torn, what's the difference between the body tear, the mind tear and the soul tear, and there is trauma between all 3. Mental anguish, soul could be identity crisis, and the physical could be electromagnetic fields. We have a list of things that are naturally aligning and naturally good for us, that make us oscillate, and our homeostasis point, our body becomes in higher and better states, not just our immune boosted, but our DNA working as it should. DNA has many working parts as well, and it's quite fascinating. Even though that we say, the greatest, one of the biggest combined projects in the world, the Human Genome Project, still says they only know what 3% of our DNA does. I can tell you what the 96.5, the rest of it does. It is your divinity. It is your blueprint to your divinity. It holds your karmic records, your reincarnation, the history of every lifetime. There's a reason why there's 96% of it. They don't know what it does. They said, remember, it was junk DNA. Then they later called it non-coded DNA. It's just part of that soul bit, right? They're physical. They're not dealing with the mental, and they're not dealing with the soul. They can't. They're not taught about it. It's not part of the education to become a scientist or a doctor, to learn how a soul works. Okay, there might be some, there's a few gateway, CIA projects and stuff. The CIA know about what I'm doing. Robert Kennedy Jr. knows what I'm doing. I'm telling you, this thing is rife and goes right throughout everywhere. But because it's holistic, it can't be part of the mainstream. So all the meetings, all the letters, all the, with the governments, prime ministers, they're gone fucking nowhere. Professors, I've had board members on the, national board, all sorts of things that are fascinated. Well, they said, mate, you got no chance. Anyway, so I get up, and the first week I start feeling some things that I haven't felt before. I felt the presence of people, grandmothers that have passed over. I really felt a connection to life in general. You know, it started, I'm just about to research my ass off from the moment I wake up to the moment I pass out for 4 months straight. In the end, I work it out every day, not a day off, just doing this. And I start getting into a bit of a routine, and I start doing a lot of walking. And at the time, I had a little doggy, Louis. So we go to the beach and long walk that way, long walk to the main shops and everything. Or I'd pick him up and walk him because he's only little leggies. And so I'm heading out. I'm going to little, cafes and restaurants and in a bit of a cycle and bits and pieces and around town and this and that. And I'm start getting these signs, synchronicities, downloads, pointers, like clues pointing me in a certain direction to look at something, to thingo, or scrolling on YouTube, something had come up and I start watching it or reading it, and then it sparks off something about, and it was basically it was giving me all these things, like stories about how, dopamine hacks and social media and what it does to a mental thing, and then drugs and mental anguish and traumas and exposure to excessive electromagnetic fields and chemicals and and a lot of things that in their own, to be honest, most of the things in their own single right do not cause a disease, but in larger combinations of things they still don't make a disease. But lots of things in a large combination, when it approaches a person who's already in a lowered state of health or homeostasis, there's a level, right? Everything's levels. It allows disease to enter. And it's almost like a big mathematical formula. You could work out, really, if you tracked everything, what someone would get, how bad they're going to get it, and when they're going to get it. And it's because we've never really started with what does a human being working at optimum look like, and why does it look like that? What's made it go like that? What makes it operate in that? What makes it heal like that? Why is that that is the most accelerated way for a human being to heal? We're still back in the fucking ages. I don't know what to say, which age, Iron Age or whatever. We're still back in the fucking Dark Ages, right? We're not even smart enough to work out that in each area there's way more levels to go. You have no idea. Even high performance sports people, they're doing what they're doing, but now after doing what I've done, I'm like, well, imagine if they knew, if they went on this diet, they would get more cognitive function, higher energy levels, lighter, faster recovery. You know what I mean? at the moment, they're just training their asses off. That's all they know. They haven't thought about, we've started to get into the psychology of sports, psychology and mentally. They know now that, visually things are sparking and going off, but there's still a lot more to go. That's not finished. Engineering, everything, every field, everything around the world. There's no more booms. There's no more technology to come. The new, like we've had those, industrial, where we went from small shops to co-ops to industrial, and now we've got big companies and big buildings and internationals, and we've just had 30 years of tech influx, and we went smaller and then we stopped, didn't we? Remember phones? It was going to be to a point where a phone was going to fit on our finger. Then that stopped and it plateaued out in bits and pieces. We're pretty much done there now. The next piece of tech, the next big boom, is a human being and its consciousness. That's the next level of our development, our stage in life. So if you want to find the answer to anything whatsoever, you've got to have some belief in yourself, and you've got to be very, very dead set on what you're doing. When you're communicating with the universe, with the hugest field, or it's a field, right, that runs through everything. That's what you're communicating with. Now, if you send fucking mixed signals to the actual universe, it doesn't know what the fuck you're saying. But if you wake up and go, I want to know why I'm here, and that's all you're thinking about, that's all you're doing when you're eating, when you're breathing, then everything that comes in your way, everything that interrupts you, everyone you run into gives you a clue. Every time you open your phone gives you a piece of the puzzle. Every time you go out, you get led, and it's like a stepping stone, and it accumulates, and eventually you start banking things. It's like going, oh, that's a key, and that's a key, and that's a key. And 4 months later, you're like, okay. Well, no, actually, it wasn't 4 months later. On this occasion, it took a few months to work out what the causes were, to get to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm pretty sure now I understand what the causes of my own chronic anxiety is and how I got it. And it's all of these things. These are the top 10 things. And I've given them a toxicity level of why they've brought me down, so that I could get a disease. And I'm happy with that. So now I need to work out how to test that. Right? Are you with me? Because no one else is. The whole fucking planet's asleep, mate. So I've then worked out this is what has caused my chronic anxiety, panic attacks, everything. And now I need to test it. So I'm thinking, all right, I just start formulating a plan and I offset everything. All right, diet, I want all the energy to go towards healing. I don't want this is the lightest load, and then I start putting it out to the universe, and it starts helping me with the program as well. So it fills in all the gaps, and it gives me the thing. It even tells me the days. 14 days. I don't know why 14 days. I have no fucking clue. So I've got this thing and all these things and a 14-day protocol, and do this, don't do that. Fucking food is fucking out of control. They're designed for this whole protocol and everything. It's a naturally aligning protocol. I set a date and I do it for 14 days. The only thing that I didn't stop doing was taking my medication. And by this stage, I'd had problems years prior, and I'd got off Zoloft, and I started taking Cipramil. And I think it was just a mental thing. I think I was just I was making shit up all the time. I wasn't right in the head from this medication, and I was like, oh, Zoloft is fucking making me like a zombie. We know what other ones are out there and all this. And he's gone, oh, we can change you over to Cipramil, and that was another fucking 2-week hole where I can't even remember what the fuck went on, why I got so stressed out to fucking get off one medication and start another. And you get into these really funny periods when you start coming on to this type of medications for mental health, blockers and all the rest of it. So I talked to my doctor, and as I told you, said send a blood test. Now, I didn't tell my doctor, but I thought I'm going to try and maybe, because the whole reason initially why I went to my doctor was to get off, to reduce my medication, but then to eventually get off it. And he said, no, you can't, remember? And so I thought, all right, I'll do alternate days with my medication and see if I can wean down that way. Do you know what I mean? And because usually, you start feeling it not there, but it's like it builds up in your system. So, but one day you don't feel it, one day you don't feel it, one day you don't feel it. Whereas if you took it down a milligram on a day thing, it would be more of a, you would feel it, I don't know, it's hard to explain, feel it not there every day, if that makes sense. It's like, because you're having a full one and then nothing the next day, then you have a full one again, it's like it's a bigger hit every day. But as if you reduce your medication, which I did many times, I tried to many times, it's not there, and you just, or it might be a mental thing as well, but either way, there was a lot of those with this fucking condition. So, amazing, right? 14 days, day 8, take my medication, and my body throws it up. It keeps throwing it up. It would not stay down. And I was like, okay, that's a sign. And I never took my medication again. I finished the program on day 14. I went to Hungry Jack's. I started smoking again. It's very easy to pick up all the old habits again. I've sort of oscillated on again, off again, and got it off alcohol, cigarettes and everything now, drugs, all the rest of it. So gone the whole gambit, but I did get back on it for years. It's been 8 years now. So if you want to find anything out from the universe, that's how you do it. There's lots of other podcasts around that I've done that do explain this in greater detail, but I hope that you can. And it's the same if you want something, right? You want to go, you just fucking go. That's what I want. That's what I'm going for. And you've got to talk it. You've got to say it out loud. It's a frequency in the air, right? It can be picked up and used. And if you send a consistent message to it, you've got to remember the universe is not a two-way conversation. It feels energy, and if that energy is I am well, I am well, I am well, I am well, then everything is going to be towards I am well. If everything, there's a reason why hypochondriacs get everything that they're worried about. So go out there and get whatever you want, get healed, all the rest of it. Thank you. Go and get them.